You know, experience in driving is so important when you're making these split-second decisions. And I think the plaintiff felt that she could go safely into the middle lane, that second lane, without actually slowing down more than she had, at which point the defendant, who is now still going slow because she wants to change lanes, and you know, when you change lanes, you don't keep your speed up, you kind of brake a little, make sure nobody's alongside of you. So she continues to kind of not pick up speed. She moves into the lane. The plaintiff's right there behind her, figures she's either going to hit her directly in the rear or she's got to get out of the lane. And she does, and that's when she hits her. She misjudges her because she's going faster still than the defendant, whatever their speeds were. So that brings me to a lot of what your point was, which was that she had an obligation to kind of perceive what was going on around her and slow up to be more careful. On the other hand, the defendant, I get her point about the police report. It's inaccurate, so we shouldn't believe, we should disregard it in its entirety. That doesn't matter because I'm looking at both insurance, which blames one, and the police, which blames the other. I'm in one of two places. Either there's responsibility on both ends, or it's just the plaintiff's fault.
I don't agree with you. This is the way I look at it. The plaintiff had the right of way. The defendant came into a 6-lane highway where the speed limit was 50 miles per hour, which is a pretty high speed limit for a city street. So she had the responsibility to judge whether it was safe for her to enter into the right lane. And she obviously misjudged either the speed of the defendant or the distance she needed to get up to speed in order to safely enter that highway. So I don't see the fault here being that of the plaintiffs. And I think that everything else is consistent with the police report, which includes that the fault was the defendant's. And to me, what the plaintiff said made perfect sense. I'm sorry, I don't agree with you.
I respectfully disagree with you.
Of course.
I thought that the plaintiff even conceded that the collision didn't take place right as the defendant turned. If the defendant turned and there was a collision, then I would agree with you because the plaintiff had the right of way. However, that's not when the collision happened.
50
the
feet
collision
from the corner.
happened. I thought that even the plaintiff conceded that the accident took place further along because remember, we're talking about 2 lane changes. So the defendant turns, plaintiff changes lanes, defendant changes lanes, then they have an accident. That's more than 50 feet. I think the plaintiff had the best opportunity to avoid the accident, and I think she was going too fast. I think if you look at the damage to her car, there is no gosh darn way she was simply going 20 miles an hour.
Even if she was going 45,
I don't
even
believe
if she was
that.
going 45 miles per hour, that was the permissible mileage. Now, the police officer came on the scene. One of the most important things a police officer has to do is identify the point of collision.
True, correct.
So am I to assume that he didn't know that it was 50 feet?
He didn't know that she didn't go to the ambulance.
We can't rely on this because right on its face, it's totally
The first
incorrect.
line is wrong.
So maybe, so let's concede that that's the case. But why is he also wrong about the 50?
He doesn't have to be. Of course, you could always find one part's correct and one isn't. But I don't think that the defendant signaled. I do think that she might have been making, to some extent, an unsafe change in the lane. But I do feel much more strongly about the plaintiff's liability. Would anybody be interested in saying 80-20?
No, I'd be interested in 100% zero.
I'll join you on 20% fault of the plaintiff and 80% fault.
No. I would be more in favor of the plaintiff being the one all responsible.
I can't agree to that.
Well, then, since I have to go one way or another, I'm going to go that it's the plaintiff because I still think the plaintiff did this. And that's why.
I dissent.
Okay.